Please, want to welcome everyone that's here, my goodness, and all those that are joining us online. Will you please join me to pledge the flag? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Martin, may we have attendance, please?
There are 7 directors present tonight. Mr. Benigno and Mr. Talley are absent.
We do have a quorum. This is our second meeting of the month, and most official votes are taken, many of which are listed on a consent agenda, which includes those items which are routine or have been discussed at our work session last week. We'll start with board commendations for October. Congratulations to the boys golf team who won the 2023 Lancaster Lebanon LL League Section 2 title in September. This marked the program's first Section 2 title in 21 years. Mason Targabueno had a low round of the day at 74. Alex Shiner shot a 77, followed by Ethan Targabueno, Thomas Kobalinski, Ruth Landis, and Miles Jackson. Congratulations to the middle school student, Han Ha, who won second place for the Safe to Say Something poster contest. Han took second place in the 7th grade category, and his poster is online. Safe to Say is a youth violence prevention program run by the Pennsylvania Office of Attorney General. The program teaches youth and adults how to recognize warning signs and signals excuse me, especially within social media. From individuals who may be a threat to themselves or others, and to say something before it's too late. I can't say anything. 2 Conestoga Valley District facility dogs in training are now official facility dogs after graduating the special ceremony at United Disability Services in Lancaster. Coco, a facility dog at Gerald G. Huston Middle School, is owned by Principal Dr. Rachel Metzinger. Elsie, a facility dog at Brownstown Elementary, is owned by the speech language pathologist, Mrs. Christine Colantoni. Congratulations to Coco and Elsie and to the team who spent countless hours participating in the dog's training. Facility dogs are specially trained service dogs that work with a trained volunteer or professional. Facility dogs help thousands of distressed individuals and those with special needs. CV's long-term goal is to have a facility dog in each building. Congratulations to Maya Harner, Bennett Whitaker, and Lydia Salmons, who earned commended student status by the 2024 National Merit Scholarship Program. They were recognized for their exceptional academic promise among 50,000 high school applicants across the country. And separate congratulations to their parents and teachers who guided these students to this achievement. I'd like to give special recognition to our district principals and National School Principals Month, and to all of our dedicated and patient beyond understanding bus drivers during School Bus Safety Week. Superintendent's comments, Dr. Hartman.
Sure. Before we do that, I believe we may have skipped over approval of agenda.
Oh, you're right, we did. But we didn't vote yet, so we're okay. I'm sorry, can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Wait, Mrs. Groff, we have a couple updates to the agenda, if I may.
Should I go home? We have corrections or
Yes.
additions?
We have some updates and additions. Superintendent's report, there was a resignation added after the public posting. It is noted in red. Consent agenda item J, there was an additional document added, the marketplace pricing schedule. Item K, the attachment was moved from exec content to public content. Action and discussion, item B and C, settlement agreements were not available prior to public posting and they were added to exec content today.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now you can speak.
I can speak now?
Yeah, and I'll shut up.
Good evening. Would like to introduce a few new faces to CV this evening that we're excited about. The first one is not completely new. She spent some time here recently. Mary Martin will be serving as a long-term substitute in learning support at Fritz. Mary student taught here last year, and ever since then, she never left. She's been here as a substitute, filling in various roles, and will be with us for a longer term now. So we're happy to have Mary. She's a 2023 Millersville graduate in early childhood education.
I know that feeling of coming here and never leaving.
So, next we have Kendall Hinchy. Kendall will be a special education support teacher, roaming around the multiple buildings in the district for that role. She received her bachelor's degree in elementary education and special education from Millersville, and a master's in curriculum and instruction from Penn State. She also is a certified reading specialist, so a lot of qualifications she's bringing to us. She has 16 years of teaching experience in special education, including time working at IU 13, St. Leo the Great Catholic School, and most recently at Manheim Township. Welcome. And finally, we have Teresa McCauley, who will be our new high school life skills teacher. So we've been waiting to fill that position. So Teresa is also coming to us from Manheim Township. So I have some phone calls to make tomorrow. She has 16 years of teaching experience between her time at Township and time also at IU 13. Tara has her bachelor's degree in elementary and special education, along with her ESL certification from Millersville and her master's in educational development strategies from Wilkes University. So we're super excited about the wealth of experience all of our new buckskins are bringing to us. So welcome.
And the schools they come from should be thrilled that we chose them because we only choose the best. Board comments about recent activity. We have to work on that, folks. Correspondence. Do we
Well,
have
I
any?
do have one.
Oh, okay.
I do.
I'm not the only one that's half asleep tonight.
Presented with the CV team for First 10 at their national meeting on Friday. Right? So yeah, that was Friday. Yeah, so that was a cool thing to be part of. We got to showcase all that we're doing with First 10 here at CV. And how great of a job we're doing. So it was really cool to represent that.
Is this our first year in that program?
This is year 2.
Our second year. Anything else?
Well, I guess we should say something about homecoming. I
That'd be
think this
nice.
is the third year in a row that we've had rain on homecoming, but it didn't seem to mess with the kids' spirits at all. Of course, I can't go to the dance and all that stuff, but having a teenager and knowing many teenagers in the district, it seemed like it was a pretty great event for them, which was awesome. And I heard the bonfire and stuff was fun as well. So kudos for everybody who puts that on for our
It's getting
students.
rain on the bonfire.
Yeah.
Any others? Correspondence, secretary, none? Okay, then let's start off with Mrs. Hernandez and the Smoketown presentation. It's based on one of our district goals.
Shouldn't have eaten that bread at Banana. Good evening, everyone. Katie Hernandez, the principal at Smoketown, and I brought with me Kelly Kime. We're here to talk a little bit about PBIS's implementation at our building, and Kelly is here as one of our building coaches. So we'll share a little bit about where we were, where we are, and just how we've been implementing here the first couple months of school. So there we go. Are you driving, Dr. Hartman?
I will, yeah.
Okay. All right, so PBIS, just a little background, is connected to our district's comprehensive plan under our instructional model of MTSS and trauma. And then if we go, I'm going to talk a little quickly here because I really want to get into what we're doing. Within our profile, last month you heard from Mrs. Trasberg about our modern learning and curriculum, and we're kind of setting the stage of our positive climate, right? So we need to set the stage for that positive environment so that kids can thrive and learn. So you've probably heard a lot about PBIS from Mrs. Schaefer and Mrs. Cabry. We have a variety of levels of leadership here in the district. So we have our supporting CV facilitators with SPEC. There are consultants that are working with the district level team, which is outlined below. And then each building has a building team that has a PBIS building coach, and then team members. So here at Smoketown, we have myself, we have classroom teachers both at the primary level and intermediate levels. We have a music teacher, special education. We have a variety of team members to have lots of different perspectives on what does this look like from different lenses. We have team roles, we meet monthly, we review data, and we try to make really good decisions for kids and teachers at our building.
We just started a student group also.
That's right.
Fifth
So we
grader.
have student leaders now are just starting. They just met last week. So where were we and where are we now? So last school year, our school level teams met with SPEC and our district level coaches, and we really learned about what PBIS was, what's the framework, what's all the planning that needs to go into the launch of this framework. So we did all of that last year, and then in June, our PBIS team had, the day after school left, we came back to school, and we launched what is PBIS and what does that look like for Smoketown. And the reason our team decided that we needed to set that up in June was we wanted teachers to have the summer to think, okay, there's going to be a little bit of changes to how we approach things, and we wanted them to kind of have the summer to reflect and be ready to go, to not have another new thing in front of them in August when they're trying to get their classrooms ready. We did a refresher in August where we added in our student code of conduct that was voted by the board, I think at the end of the school year, if I remember correctly. And then in August to September, we've launched with the students. And what is included in that is acknowledgement tickets. We have school-wide lessons that you'll see a little bit more about, incentives and assemblies. And then we also made sure that our parents and caregivers also have a little bit of idea of what's going on. So we had an email blast early on. We had Kelly and our counselor at a back-to-school night table, and just trying to get the information out to our families as well.
Here you'll see a picture on the right is our school-wide behavior matrix. So this is has all of our expectations, how to be safe, respectful, and responsible. This just set up common language throughout the building, so it allowed students to kind of understand the expectations in each area. We even had a bus come in, and we had all the students come in on the bus in grade levels to explicitly teach the expectations on the bus. So starting day one, we had those lessons, and we rolled out all this lessons at the bathroom and the cafeteria, just so that everyone knew what was expected. And this just, again, helped with common language.
And the really nice thing about PBIS, and we're going to talk a lot about common language, and oftentimes you might have one teacher who might say, you can talk in the hallway if it's a whisper, and then another teacher who says, no, absolute silence, and another teacher who's like, I don't care if you talk at all. But you have kids who then also see multiple teachers throughout the day. So by having common language, common expectations, our children are able to really know what are the expectations, and their brain is now ready for the learning. They don't have to switch what is Mrs. Kime's expectations when I'm with her, and when I go to Mrs. Hernandez, they're different, and they look, I can do this or not do that. So it really sets the stage so that kids can focus on the learning, and the brain slots are open up for that.
So here, cafeteria, we give out green tickets in the cafeteria, and we have grade level bags, and we do weekly raffles for free ice cream, or they get to see the prize cart. Here we have 2 first graders that earned those prizes.
We also started proctor training and meeting with our SOSL cafeteria proctors monthly to go over and support them with things that they may need or training that they may support what they're doing with our cafeteria and the students in there. We created a referral form because obviously PBIS, is heavy on the acknowledgement, the positive, but we can't forget how are we going to reinforce those negative behaviors when they do come across, and this aligns with our new code of conduct there. Here are some pictures of our first assembly, and really the first assembly just was the kickoff. What are they going to expect throughout the year? When are the ticket drawings? Things like that. And here at the assemblies, we can also reinforce some of the problem areas we can reteach, and we connect them also to our monthly character traits, which ironically I saw these in front of you with the monthly traits. So it's nice to reward and honor students showing those traits at these monthly assemblies too. So not only are we using that time to reteach and reinforce, but also have fun and honor. So this month on Friday, we're gonna mummify some of our teachers and the kids get to help wrap them up. So I did get teacher volunteers, I'm not forcing anyone into it. So.
All right, so you heard a little bit about tickets and acknowledgement, and what you see in front of you is an example of what we're using at Smoketown. Every building is using something similar, but it's really to acknowledge immediately and giving positive praise for what's expected. So it's really important, and we're talking to our teachers and our paras about acknowledging, are you safe, are you responsible, and are you respectful with a specific targeted behavior. So there's some examples. So you are being so safe by walking in the hall. So it's clearly aligned to what is the expectation.
Here are our bins of tickets. We broke them up to K to 2 and 3 to 5, and that's what we've collected so far this year. So each week they're collected. And students drawn from, we pull about 2 students per homeroom, and they get to pick from the prize cart there on the right. And then at our monthly assemblies, we pull from those big bins, and those students get some larger prizes, not just prize cart. So we're collecting as the year goes on, and these are set up right outside the cafeteria where all students can see them.
You see a lot of like trinkets and things, but there's coupons. So some of our hot ticket items are being an office helper. And you'll see a quote here from Mrs. March, our attendance secretary. She gets to celebrate with the kids when they come down and then they do little office tasks. Other students are the guest announcer for the day. So there's relational side of reinforcements as well as the little trinkets for kids who like that. We're going to close out with a couple quotes from teachers and then some students as well. And you really see a really broad spectrum of some positivity of how people are feeling. And it's different for some folks, but you can see here primary emotional support teachers is really seeing some really great things with her students who aren't always seen for the positive things that they're doing. Second grade seeing some great things. You mentioned the spotted. So if you see a whole class meeting those expectations, you can spot a whole class and you can earn class-wide extra recess and things that the whole class can enjoy in addition to individual reinforcements. And then Milan, our 5th grade student here, you can see, just reminds her to do the right thing. So really great things happening at Smoketown. We're really excited about PBIS. We're in its infancy right now, but with our student groups, our teacher groups, we're excited to see how it grows. So thank you for your time.
Any questions, comments?
I know it's early, but
Yeah.
are you seeing a positive effect on behavior?
I would say so. I think there's an excitement around doing the right thing. And I'll go back to the consistency piece. Things were inconsistent with expectations of what we all agreed upon as being expected. And I keep saying the hallway behavior. That was a big thing at Smoketown. Some teachers, it was a level 0. A quiet hallway, and others it was you could talk. So even just having really common expectations is helping kids know what's expected, so that when we do need to reinforce or redirect, there's nothing, it's very clear. So I would say from that stance, I'm seeing some improvements from the school-wide tier 1 level.
Even today, one of our paraprofessional support teachers I saw standing in front of the poster in the hallway and just hey, let's review these expectations, and it was just a quick, I saw you do this, and that's not what's expected, here's what is expected, and it took, 30 seconds, so.
Like the part that's discipline 101, catch them doing something right.
Yes.
And there are things and consequences in following the code of conduct when things are not done right. So we're trying to support the cafeteria proctors with our referral system. That's been going fairly well. We just started that last week, but just helping. There's positive and negative consequences to all of our actions, and trying to balance that out.
And how do you have consistency in how you handle someone that isn't doing what they should?
So we go back to the code of conduct, and we're working on a behavior flow, which is part of PBIS of classroom managed behaviors, major office referrals, and then following a process through that, which is outlined in the
So
code
it's the
of
same
conduct.
for everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, and putting in the supports so that it's not necessarily punitive, but how are we reteaching and handling each situation as it
Any other
arises.
questions?
As a learning experience.
Dr.
been a long
Jones,
day.
did you want to add anything? Just back there smiling about it.
I'm just proud of this team. I love hearing about it. Think of all the work Sarah and the district team put in to get to this place. So it's exciting to see the slides and the pictures and the all the things that we planned for a year actually coming to fruition and having the momentum.
Thank you, we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good school year.
Thank you.
Gentlemen.
This is the first time during our agenda where we take public comments. Does anyone have an issue they'd like to address with the board from something on our agenda?
I do.
If not, yes.
Good evening. My name is Tanya Smith. I am a
Would
parent.
would you come up to where we can hear you better, please? You state your name
My name is Tanya Smith.
and you are a parent.
I am a parent of a student who is being bullied at the high school. It's nice to put a face to the name Dr. Hartman. I'm Janae's mom.
Yes.
I'm just curious if anyone here can help me. I have been working with administration and I've gotten no resolution. I know that Mrs. Johnson has been trying, but we are at a point where my daughter is being videoed during a study hall by another student, and it is affecting her greatly. I'm not sure where to go at this point, so this is where I was directed to come. Can anyone help?
Dr. Hartman, where do we refer this mom?
I think so far, from what I know of the situation, she has gone through the appropriate channels. It's, I believe around noon today, you emailed the high school administration to look into it. And Mrs. Johnson, I think, is on it, and I don't know where we're at with that investigation or what's going on with it, but.
I disagree. I mean, she is on it, but I disagree that we're getting anywhere at this point. I feel that things are getting worse for my daughter.
Well, what would I think needs to happen is everyone involved needs to meet and be more specific and maybe come up with a plan for you.
I've already done that.
The board has no disciplinary powers until something's brought to us. So I could just ask Dr. Hartman to intervene, because he would be at the top of that chain of command.
Okay?
So, we do have her contact information. I'm sure meeting will be set up with you and Dr. Hartman.
Okay. Thank you.
And if it doesn't work, I'm sure we'll hear back from you.
I'm sure you will.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address something? Anyone from CVEA or another employee group?
Nothing tonight, thanks.
Okay. Then we'll move on to the consent agenda. Are there any questions or concerns with anything on the consent agenda? If not, I will accept a motion to approve items A through K with the changes.
Motion to approve items A through K on the consent agenda with the changes.
Second.
The roll call, please.
Mr. Gensel?
Aye.
Mr. Dillman?
Aye.
Mrs. Kapka?
Aye.
Mr. Hurst?
Aye.
Dr. Martin?
Aye.
Ms. Trowbridge?
Aye.
Ms. Groff?
Aye. Our next item on the agenda is the equity audit. We have Dr. Tonya Breland and Eric Elite. We're going to present how far we've gotten with this.
Start.
I have this as a PDF,
Okay.
not a PowerPoint, so just let me know when.
Okay. So, good evening. My name, as she said, my name is Erica Leek. I am one half of the TISO Consulting Group. My partner, Dr. Tonya Breland, couldn't be here this evening, but we are, I'm really happy to be here, and I really enjoyed working with the leadership here for this study. And I just want to talk a little bit about sort of like where we are in the process for the study. So we can go to the next slide. So 3 areas I just want to share with you today. One is the update for the study. The other is just take a look at, I just want to show you the demographics. There's one area of the survey participant demographics that we found remarkable. We do this in a few different districts, and one thing about Conestoga Valley that I'm really excited to kind of share with you that we don't get in other districts that I'm going to share with you in a second. And then finally, the data overview, sort of what are the larger trends that we've seen in the particularly the quantitative piece of the study. If you think about the study, there are 3 major areas. So one is the survey, which I'm sure you've all seen or heard of. The other are the 2 areas are qualitative data. One is the focus groups, and the other is the document analysis. So policy and documents and processes of Conestoga Valley. Those are the 3 major areas that we've been analyzing. Next slide. So as I've said, we're really working through a couple of phases. All of these areas are completed. The major piece of phase 1 was the distribution and the analysis of the survey, and all of that has been completed. We can go to the next slide. And then we had, from the survey, we looked at the trends, and then we identified focus group questions, like what do we want to know more of, thinking about sort of some of the answers, realizing that the surveys are perception data, right? So when you get perception data, we have to see like to what extent is this actually happening for like throughout the district. And so we took a look at that, identified some questions, and we had some focus groups, and we're currently in progress of analyzing the focus group data, because we want to make sure that when we have that survey data, that we also substantiate some of the perceptions with what we find with the focus groups, and we've done that, and we're in the process of analyzing the focus group data. And then also, we're in the process of looking at different data sources. We're looking at the handbook, the employee handbook, the student handbook, all those processes that we've received, and we're analyzing that as well. So we can keep going to the next slide. So I just wanted to show you, this is the demographics for the participant data. So overall, if you look at the top left there, we have that little table there. One of the things that we found remarkable is the number of parent responses. We have never seen numbers like this in terms of we're working with the district now, and we were praying to get to 100. Praying is a full district, praying to get to 100. So when we saw these numbers going up and up and up, it was like, this is amazing. So you capped out at 548, which is pretty remarkable. That number on the right there, that's in terms of the number of the total numbers of participants. So staff, again, and that's a pretty robust number as well. So the staff numbers are 12% of the total number of respondents. And then you see the numbers for the parents and the students as well, which
when we administer this to students in school, you would expect that to be the larger number. Because we usually get the full number, the full complement of student responses when we administer it in school. We also have the racial and ethnic breakdown at the bottom left there. And then on the side there, we have the school breakdown. We thought that was important as well. And you would expect as you would expect, the high school and the middle school numbers are higher, just given the grade breakdown of the students that took the survey. We can go to the
Can I
next.
ask one question about that?
Sure.
You broke it down into how all your responses are broken down, what percentage of staff. Do you have a number for how the percentage of responses?
I don't actually have that number. Does the leadership might, but I don't know your total, I don't know what your total population number is for your staff.
Yeah.
So, but we can get that to you, I'm sure.
Yeah, I had the same question. I think it would be interesting to see the response rate for each of those categories.
Sure.
We had gotten very early on, when this first went out, some idea, and I just wondered if those numbers held up. Back then, it was 3/4 of staff, 1/3 of parents, and 57% of students, but half of the high school students, which I thought was huge.
Mm-hmm.
I just wondered if that grew or if that was adjusted.
Yeah, so we don't have we don't know what your total population is in either category. But we can, I'm certainly find that out with the leadership. I do, so yeah, I'll just leave it at that. We can find that out. Yeah. So these numbers really are trending numbers. So in terms of the staff survey, so this is the top rated on the left and the lowest rated. These are those that identified, selected strongly agree or agree. So we use the Likert scale, strongly agree down to strongly disagree. So the numbers that you have here are those that identified or selected strongly agree or agree. So what we found, the trend that we found for staff is really around, the notion of fairness and justice and creating really safe environments for their students, and also like these really engaging learning environments. So the staff responded really positively around their perception of the way that they provided, really safe and inclusive spaces. So you see those numbers are really high. The lower rated items for staff were really around resourcing, really around like staff resourcing. So for instance, 7% agreed or strongly agreed that there are enough staff to meet the needs of all special ed students. So those numbers are lower, and we see that with that same sentiment around counseling needs and also bilingual students. The other trend that we saw in terms of the lower rated items are around really around like these equity principles. So one is about being able to distinguish between an asset-based belief and a deficit-based belief. So that is, do we see students based on their deficits, or do we see them based on the strengths that they bring to the environment in which they're learning? And then finally, that last one, 24% of the staff respondents believe that the district uses an equity lens when evaluating policies. And so those are the trends that we saw around the staff numbers, the higher, the top rated and the lower rated. The next slide shows you the parent trends. So what we found with the parents, the one that was the highest rated is really around the access to technology. So 89% of parents believe that their kid has access to a laptop or other devices to complete assignments, and that's around like access. And so they believe that their child has access. The other areas are really around, again, the provision of safe spaces. So like the teachers, the parents agree that their child's teachers actually provide safe and inclusive spaces. So one is about being valued and included, and the other is really about like providing environments that make their child feel safe and learning experiences that make their child feel safe. Very highly rated in Conestoga Valley. And finally, that last one is around my child's teachers believe my child will be successful. So 76% of parents strongly agreed. The lower rated items, these all really actually centered around discipline policies. So 19% believe that my child can still participate in sports even if they have low grades. If my child gets in trouble, they're still permitted to participate in activities. 27% agreed or strongly agreed with that. And we found that actually pretty remarkable because there seemed to be like 27% says, yeah, if my child gets in trouble, they can still participate. So that's 27%. So that means like 70-something% say no. So then the question is, what we would dig deeper in, is there inconsistency in implementation? Is there a lack of understanding around what the policy actually is? So all of those other ones is really around like discipline and what happens if a kid is kind of struggling with behavior or grades. What might be the consequences? And that one in the middle there, if rules in my child's school are unfair, my child is allowed to share their opinions. That one's really about student voice. To what extent does a kid have voice in the space in which they're learning? And then the next slide is the student survey results. So the trends that we see for the students actually mirror the parents. So that first one there, again, is about access to technology. That's almost actually exactly the same percentage number, which is really interesting. And then the other ones are around, feeling safe and included. And so what we found that in alignment is that staff, parents, and students all felt like there are really some really safe environments and kids feel valued and included. And that was sort of reverberated among the three stakeholder groups. Like parents though, kids had lower ratings around discipline. So if my grades are low, I'm still able to participate in sports, or, if I get into trouble, this happens. These actually mirror the parents' perceptions around discipline. And then students, that middle one there, I believe students are disciplined fairly. That's usually lowest graded when it comes to students. Most students don't think that they're disciplined fairly. But then that last one there is like, I see how my culture is a part of the way my teacher teaches or interacts with me. And that's one of the lower rated ones as well. And so that was interesting. That kind of popped up as, we usually get all discipline for kids. But those discipline items actually kind of mirrored, like I said, the parents. But that one around the culture is sort of one that we would dig deeper around, like culture responsive practices and making sure that kids kind of see themselves represented or reflected in materials or practices or even interactions with parents. With teachers. And so I believe that's the last slide. Oh no, there's one more slide, and that really is around resources and literature. We are constantly looking at what the research says and different resources that actually provide really good strategies and information around, providing really great learning experiences for kids, particularly in spaces that are diverse. And so we have two books here that are really considered almost standard around DEI teaching and culturally responsive instruction. And then the Pennsylvania Department of Education has a really great comprehensive compendium of resources around equitable practices for districts, and we wanted to include that as well. And so that really concludes my presentation and my sort of overview of the process thus far. And I guess at this time we'll take questions. If anybody has any questions?
Is Dr. Hartman and our administration able to view this data by building based on responses? So I'm just
Yes.
curious, because since we're tracking that, they can actually see, because it'd be interesting to see, and I'm sure when they do that deep dive, to see which buildings, particularly with the negative things.
Yes.
Is it trending more in one building or two versus another one based on some of that stuff?
Yeah.
Which would be interesting for sure. So I'm glad that they can dig down into that.
Do you have any sense with discipline if there's a route there where not everyone agrees on what the discipline should look like?
Can you repeat that question? I'm sorry.
When you have answers, there were a lot more questions than those low 5. But do you get any sense that the core problem is, or part of the core problem is that a lot of people have different ideas as to what the discipline should look like? So they may be happy or unhappy with the same rules.
I absolutely think so. So even looking through, and we're not finished with the focus group analysis, but there does seem to be some, I'll say just inconsistency around sort of what constitutes good behavior, what constitutes disrespect, which is why in that previous presentation around PBIS was really great around like, let's be consistent around our language and our expectations, because we definitely kind of saw that, you noticed that in the focus group, from the focus group information. So yes, I do get a sense. Now, what is it specifically? I wouldn't be able to say just yet, yeah.
And are the focus groups in each of these 3 categories? So is there a staff focus group, a parent focus group, and a student focus group?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
When I read through the exact questions for some of these, when it comes to the student survey, it seems to me that there is a huge difference between a 6th grader and an 11th or 12th grader. And some of the questions weren't apropos for a middle school student. Do you ever break it down for the students more
Yes.
than that?
Yes, so we can actually see that. So when we're like looking at, so our analysis is like what's happening in the middle school, what's happening in the high school, because we know that there are different environments, right? And so even in the questions, the focus group questions, we had slightly different questions that would really address what seemed to be the middle school concern as opposed to what seemed to be the high school student concern. So yes.
I sometimes read some of the answers and wondered what their yardstick is, like especially the parents. Granted, it's perceptual,
Yes.
but at some point you want to have something more structured. Exactly. What makes you think that. So at some point, do we get to that point too, where we get some background for why?
Yes.
They gave a certain answer.
So that really is the whole purpose of the focus group. So when we see like those really low rated items, we go after them. Or when we see that, so for every item on the survey, there is, not for every, but for most items on the survey, there was like a staff question, a parent question, right? And so when we saw large discrepancies, so if 80% of the staff said, yes, I do this, but 20% of the parents said, that's not happening, we wanted to know like, okay, what's happening in this gap? So that's sort of what we went after, yeah.
Okay. And this will be completed when?
Yes, so our projection is really by the end of the calendar year.
Okay, so
Yes.
we will have you back.
Yes, yes, you'll see me again.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one quick question. I'm not sure who it goes to.
Mark?
When this is all done, Mark, when this is all done, what do we do with it?
I think we wait till the end of the recommendations, but I think that's where we as a board, as an admin team, will look at, there might be some policy recommendations that come out of this, there might be some programmatic recommendations. As with anything, they're recommendations, what do we take, what's best for the interest of the district. So I think even when we get the final report, there will still be decisions to be made after that. I think we'll have to talk about, if a policy recommendation comes out, that might be based on best practice or parent interest. Is it consistent with law? Is it consistent with what in PA we currently are required to do for example, something like eligibility or something like that. But so I think there's still gonna be a lot of heavy lifting to do even when this is done, but I think this has given us great baseline data and then even more in-depth follow-up data on how our community feels, how our parents feel, how our students feel that we can look at to make decisions on. Dr. Kozer, would you, not to put you on the spot, but you've been more involved than I have. Do you have anything to add to that?
Right, if you think about it from our comprehensive plan lens, right? This audit is just the first step in understanding the landscape. And then from there, we prioritize based on the recommendations, and that's really when the actual work starts. Right now, we're collecting the data, we're getting the landscape, then we'll come back, we'll make decisions as far as priority 1, priority 2, and put some action steps to those priorities.
And I think the timing, if the stars align, will be perfect with ending at the calendar year, because it should align with when we're gonna be developing our revisions to the comprehensive plan. So that's another added bonus, is that some of these recommendations could become focus areas of our comprehensive plan for the next
Okay.
3-year cycle.
Any other questions? If not, our next item comes from Mr. Johnson. And
Good evening.
good evening. This is a step forward, right?
Yes, actually 2 steps forward, both this one and the next one. These are very similar to what we presented with J.R. Reynolds settlement a few months ago. So there was a lot of back and forth. I mean, from the last mediation, I think we came at least out of that moving forward with both Horst and Matchline. So they've been very responsive in both accounts. So if you have any questions, we can also, Mr. Frank Hauser said he's available. If you would have any questions, we could bring him in, so.
Would you like approval tonight?
Yes, approval tonight would be,
I'm sorry.
I said, would you like approval tonight?
yes.
Do we have the final?
Those, what,
Yeah.
Yes.
The
settlement.
2 final documents?
the 2 final documents you
Yeah.
have in your possession,
Okay.
yep.
Any other questions? Well, I'm just pleased that at least some of our contractors were willing to sit down and talk
Yes.
this through reasonably. And so far, we're still staying in budget.
Yes,
I can take one motion for both of these together, if you'd like.
Yeah, you can. No, I'll make it. I move that we approve both settlements as presented.
Second.
Can we have a roll call for this, please?
Mr. Dillman?
Aye.
Mrs. Kapka?
Aye.
Mr. Talley?
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch?
Aye.
Dr. Martin?
Aye.
Ms. Trowbridge?
Aye.
Mr. Gensel?
Aye.
Mrs. Groff?
Aye.
wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ken.
The next item, I brought my brick. This is not the most important thing this board does, and not the most important thing we're doing this evening, but it's the one that has the most sentimental value to it. It's a little bit unique for us. We have abandoned or demolished or sold or transferred property before. We've closed buildings, but we've never had anything quite like this, where we're abandoning a building and moving away. And we have to name the new building. So, at some point, we have to come to an agreement. So I will simply open for discussion for anyone who'd like to make a suggestion or a demand, whatever. But this was a brick from the original Smoketown.
In the original from 1918, 20?
No, there was none back then.
No, back then,
1937.
1937?
Isn't that what it says?
Yeah.
Good.
So I'll start.
Yeah, I figured you would.
So I did a little bit of thinking, and I feel like it's almost because we're moving to a new building, if we give it a new name, it's almost like you're rebranding something. If you guys saw all the PBIS stuff, all the Smoketown stuff was all over it. I don't think it's worth the time, energy, and investment to make all of those changes just for namesake.
I 100% disagree.
That's okay.
We talked about this when we first even thought about the idea of, after the mold issue with Smoketown. I had a big community forum with all the people that were interested in Smoketown, we were kicking around the idea of it's just not worth keeping up the maintenance aspect. Building it was gonna be a little bit cheaper. And if we sold the property, we sold the school, we sold whatever, and we built a new school someplace else, that we would not be naming it Smoketown. Did anybody have any issues with that? The answer was no. Nobody had any issues with that. You know, my grandparents met in Mrs. Smith's kindergarten class, and my whole lineage depends upon Smoketown, and I'm gonna chain myself to a tree. And the answer was no. Everybody was fine with a new start, a fresh start. It's not in Smoketown, and everybody at the meeting, the community at the meeting from that perspective, not one person stood up and said, keep it the name Smoketown.
There's two sides of the same issue.
I agree that I don't think it should be Smoketown because it's not in Smoketown anymore. Everything has to change, all the stationery, everything has to change. And like the bricks and all the t-shirts that, and other Smoketown stuff, people can have that as a memory, so, you know, hey, I went to Smoketown when I was Smoketown, remember when? I mean, I went through schools that were renamed and moved and all that, and, you know, everything changes. Kids can adapt. And it's the parents are gonna be harder, but I don't think Smoketown, keeping it the same name is what we should do. I think a new name, fresh start, new building, new reno should have a new name.
The only thing I would add to that, we change the stationery every year anyhow.
We just gotta have a new address too, so yeah.
That's, we did it for the CV Middle School, we changed it to Husky Middle School, changed everything pretty
Well, we
seamlessly.
get a new principal, we have to change the stationery. Get a new phone system or something, you have to change it. I don't know if that's the big issue, really. Anyone else with a weigh in?
I think, and maybe it's because I tend to be slightly more sentimental, but, and I hear what you're saying too, Mike, with the forum thing. Based on our latest forums, I wonder what kind of attendance was there. Because if there's 10 Smoketown people there and they're not putting up an argument, based on the way our forums have gone recently, it's hard to say that we're getting a great feel from the community when 10 people are there, but maybe it was more than.
About 60.
Yeah.
So.
I think for me, it's less about changing things like that. I think it's more just, I think it's just the history of the school. I think it's perfectly fine to, we're talking about, I know it's not in Smoketown, but it's a quarter mile away.
No, it's 1.1 miles.
Is it 1.1 mile?
That's a difference.
I looked it up because I knew somebody would ask.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like that when you drive to Target. So maybe because I'm looking at the speed limit as a suggestion, but I shouldn't say that online. Anyway, but yeah, I think I'm a little partial to the sentiment. I know there have been, we did get a little bit of write-in, I think, 2 emails from parents that wanted to keep it the same and stuff. And I get the sentimental thing. And here's the only other piece I have of that is Smoketown is not my family's community. And although that doesn't necessarily matter in terms of governance, it does influence me a little bit because the families that do care, they took the time to write in and say, hey, we want to keep it Smoketown. So I would think I'm with Diane on this one where I think my preference would be to keep it Smoketown. Plus I think Smoketown sounds cooler than the other names that we've tossed around, frankly.
Nobody can pronounce Husky when they see it spelled, but we still took the name.
Luckily, there's an acronym for that. You don't need the acronym Smoketown, otherwise I go to S, right? As opposed to GHMS. Like, where do you go? I go to S. You don't need an acronym for that.
I'm just gonna let that lie. Anyone else? Well, I as far as sentiment goes, that's the whole thing. It's sentimental attachment. Progress and change is something we should be able to embrace. And just because the building goes away, we weren't going to keep the building just for sentimental reasons. that doesn't mean it disappears from our history. Originally, the school in Smoketown, what was the school in Smoketown is a church. And I think sometimes you have to move forward and you have to be realistic. I'm for embracing the new. Not forgetting the old, but I'm for embracing the new. It's a new location, a new building, it's a new, we changed our grade mixture now only goes to 5th grade. And that's moving forward. And I don't think it's disrespectful to drop the other. Look, I've had these bricks at my TV room for let's not talk about how many years. My kids went to Smoketown. When my daughter graduated CV, I remember once I was out with her and somebody said, "Where did you go to school?" And she said, "Smoketown." And she graduated high school, so I understand that. I also know that those parents right now who don't want to change the name, 4 years from now, there won't be anyone that remembers Smoketown and cares. It's a moment in time that causes change, and I'm ready for the change. So I agree with Mike and I think Diana. I still have a few others of you who haven't weighed in.
I mean, my 2 cents is it makes more sense renaming it to the location it is. However, I also respect the sentimental value and stuff like that of keeping it the same name. And since it really doesn't matter to me too much, I would defer to the Smoketown community. And the only thing I've heard from them so far was keeping it, like Dan and Mark said. So I guess if I had to choose a side, I would defer to them and say keep it, but.
Is there any surprise that people that are there feel that way?
No, I'm not surprised by that at all.
Yeah.
But I guess I have a little bit of hesitation coming in from the outside, my kids aren't in that school and stuff like that, coming in the outside and be like, no, I'm sorry, you really feel strongly about this, but too bad, I want it this way instead, kind of thing. So since it doesn't really affect anything with me, I would defer to that, is my view on it.
Roll look at the two of you that haven't spoken. No, no, Dan.
I was offering Kathy to go first.
It doesn't matter to me. I naturally thought we would call it Smoketown, but it's neither here nor there for me either. But I wondered, since we have the principal here tonight, and she's been in different schools and different areas, if she
Oh,
might
yeah. Put her on the spot.
Katie?
She's gonna leave quick.
Just my thoughts. It's been a topic of conversation at PTO meetings, at back to school night. And what I share with the parents is that it's a board decision. But I did say that lots of school boards have different processes in which they take when a renaming occurs. Some communities reach out to the school community and gather a broad opinion from the community. Other boards make an opinion based off of kind of, it sounds like what you've heard from folks. But at the end of the day, it's a board decision, and I encourage you to come to a board meeting when it's on the agenda. So I kind of just told them the process in which it occurs, but I have heard both. I have heard from parents that they would love it to stay, and I've heard from parents that they would love for a new building, a new name. So
That's sort of what I suspected, that, you know, we have to be careful of paying attention to the squeaky wheel.
Mm-hmm.
You're left.
So my opinion is similar yet different than Phil's. So I have no connection to Smoketown. So I want to be very respectful and deferential to the people that do have connections to that school. So from that perspective, I don't feel as though my opinion holds much weight. Having said that, though, I lean much more towards this is a new school with its own identity might be the same group of students, same group of teachers, but it will have its own identity. And therefore, I think part of its own identity is its name, which is different than the current school, which I feel it should be different than the current school.
And for me, I feel, well, if you've got everything there from kindergarten to fifth grade. Now, the people in fourth and fifth grade have been there several years, and their families have. So their feeling is going to be stronger than the ones who've only been there a year. But you have to remember that all these people that want to keep it Smoketown are dynamic. They're moving on. And in a couple of years, they won't be in elementary school at all.
That's
so
true,
it's
Odette,
changed.
but your daughter is a prime example of even when you're out of that school, you still feel very connected to it.
Well,
So-
I gave that example to show that, I understand, and I spent a lot of time in Smoketown halls, but that was then. So, right now we've got three one way and four the other, something like that. That's only half a decision, folks, because once you decide, well, if you decide to keep it Smoketown, that's it. If you decide to change it, to what?
Whitmer.
I agree with Whitmer.
It's just, we already have the Whitmer
We
annex
have
on the high school.
annex. That becomes confusing, I think.
Yeah.
Whitmer Elementary School.
The elementary kids don't know what's going on in the high school. How many high schoolers are like, oh, it's in Whitmer Annex.
Well, my suggestion had been East Lampeter, because that's where it is. And don't forget, everyone that goes, say, to Brownstown, doesn't live in Brownstown, because it encompasses large area. Some of them live pretty far away, too. They're not even the same, municipality.
That's true.
So I guess I figured all the others, except for Fritz, which was a new building, so it got, the name of our, the first superintendent of CV. The others are named for where they are. Brownstown is in Brownstown, Neola is in Neola. I felt this is in East Lampeter. It's sort of how we think of ourselves as the three municipalities, which at one time they were all separate. And back in what, the 50s?
So I'll throw something out in reference to that. So there is Lampeter Elementary in Lampeter Strasburg. So that could get a little, I don't know, I mean, it's close. And if my kid says, yeah, I gotta, if they forget the East or like whatever, in Lampeter, I'm like, well, you go to Ellis. No, you don't go to Ellis, you go to CV. So I think that is a little too close, a little too similar,
Well,
but.
I don't know if I agree with East Lampeter. We have East Lampeter,
It's
West
okay. You
Lampeter,
don't
we
have to
have
agree
East
with me.
Earl and West Earl.
Just saying.
Yeah, I don't like naming it a bigger township. I like the smaller community feel of naming after the town. Or like, Conestoga.
We could call it CV Elementary.
That's what a
I
lot
was
of
thinking
people,
about
a lot of schools do that.
It's all on the same campus.
And then it gives the future board, to name it after somebody if later on down the line.
Well, changing a name is, different.
My vote is if we're changing the name, it goes to Whitmer. My opinion.
Financially, Whitmer is a shorter name. Over many years, there'll be less ink, less signage.
Say that again.
I'm giving her my calculator.
Whitmer, it would take
Whitmer
less ink to
is
print
less
Whitmer
ink.
out.
It's a shorter name.
It's a shorter name.
Yeah, so you're saving
Cost per letter,
over
whatever
50-year
you're-
period, she's right, over 50-year period, the school could probably save like 10 or 12 bucks.
See, that much? That much?
Hey, a little bit helps, Corey.
Hey, the state is not giving us more, right? You know what I'm saying? We got a penny pinch here.
Well, I'm willing to take a motion and see if it floats.
Motion to what, rename it? To,
I'm willing to take any motion and see if it floats.
Or do you wanna kick the can some more?
No.
I know.
I think we need to give them an
You know?
answer.
Yeah, I just,
We haven't even got creative yet.
Let's not
Please stop.
What?
No, the creative, we could really go down a rabbit hole there.
Somewhere, yeah, cool.
Okay, I'll make a motion
Wait a
to keep
minute. Does Ken have something to say?
Just a clarification, Whitmer Annex was named after a person, not after a town.
Oh, there you go.
So just
That's
to,
good.
just to clarify.
That's good.
Well, I'm sure like, if somebody's like, where'd you go to school, and you say Whitmer, an alumni isn't gonna go, you went to school at the Whitmer Annex?
We can always,
I mean,
we can always rename the Whitmer Annex.
I get that, I just, it's the same name. What'd you say, Mike?
You can rename the Whitmer Annex if you want to.
Guess we could.
Alright, I'll make a motion to make the new Smoketown Elementary School, keep it named Smoketown Elementary.
Second.
No,
I have a question. I just have a question to make sure we're good.
no, we're not voting. This is not an action item.
You said you wanted a motion.
for a motion,
You're right, I'm sorry.
So I was making a motion.
That was my question. We do not have this listed as an action
It- it-
item.
So we can't.
Motion to put it on
No.
the future agenda? What's
But we
going on?
can still come to an agreement.
Right, well, I think you had 3 for keeping it, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for renaming it, so I would say you rename it. And then, so far with that, you have 3 saying Whitmer, I haven't heard anything else, and East Lampeter.
Is there 4 for Whitmer?
I could go with Whitmer.
I mean, we can take a straw vote, nothing wrong with that. Whitmer?
Yeah, I'd go with Whitmer.
I'll go with Whitmer.
Whitmer?
No, I'm not. On board.
Me neither. Well, but still, that's majority. We will put it on the agenda for our next meeting
Consent or vote?
for a vote,
For vote?
for a vote.
So people can have time to.
Yes,
I really was not so sure we were going to come to an agreement. I apologize for asking for the motion. I correct myself there.
Does this still give Ken the time that he needs?
We'll be okay.
Less letters.
Great. You get it, credit.
Okay, then that is settled. Board reports. I'm sorry, finance and operations. Any comments on those reports? Curriculum and instruction reports. Are there any reports for federal funds? Okay, then we'll get down to board reports. I posted the usual IU, PSBA, and Academy ones. The only thing I would add to PSBA is they're still playing games with parts of the budget. One of the things I've heard a lot lately was that they're actually willing to talk about getting rid of sunsetting or reviewing mandates. The idea there is if we save money by not having to meet some of these mandates, that leaves more money in our revenue. And so the state can say we have more money and they haven't had to take it out of theirs. The other thing is there are some numbers around. I don't know which ones are finalized and which ones aren't. One of them is more money to CTCs. Not as much as I would. I don't think it's nearly what they had asked for, considering we're talking so much today about career and technology training. Another is for leveling up, but even that doesn't touch even half of the leveling up ones. But the one that's getting the biggest of the 3 I'd like to mention is getting $150 million, and that's an increase in what used to be called the EITC. It is now called the SOTC, right? Those are the tax credits for money not going to the public school, but going to donations to private schools. They're going up $150 million without anyone adding to that they have to show data about whom they're accepting, or anything about the requirement of achievement. Yet they're getting quite a chunk. So they say you put your money where your heart is, and some of us have our hearts in our public schools. CTC, do you have a report for us?
I was actually unable to make the last meeting because of a work emergency, but I'm assuming Dr. Savin emailed that annual report over that was attached, so
Okay.
other than that.
Construction team. Have you met again? No,
I needed
okay.
to, nothing new.
Okay. Are there any other reports from any of your committees? I would have one request. I don't know if all of our board members who sit on district committees are actually being notified. I don't know if you want to check on that.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board on any issue at all? Board initiatives and concerns. Our next meeting will be at the middle school in Whitmer. We're going to have a very short forum and an open house. So we'll get that information out and we'll get it in the buckskin press and such, so people have plenty of time to know that it's coming up. And last, the dates of our board meetings. If there are no other issues, I will take a motion.
Make a motion to move to executive session.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That's it, we're adjourned. Thank you.